Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, 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 Amanda Green-Hawkins. How are you?
Hey there, Terry. I am doing just fine. Thank you. How you doing?
I am good. I'm good. I'm so excited to have you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talk Time with Terri. If you have never been here before, you are going to have a blast. So, again, we have candidate Amanda Green-Hawkins running for Court of Common Pleas here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Allegheny County. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank,
And,
thank you.
and
Glad to
so,
be here.
how's everything going?
Well, it is a marathon, not a sprint, and so I am taking it like a sprint each day because we're seven weeks and 2 days
Seven,
out. So
7 weeks.
you know gotta keep working, and that's what I'm doing, trying to earn support so I can be elected to serve the people.
Good, good. So, welcome back, and we're going to. If you don't have any questions, we're going to get started. Are you still? Are you? Is your evening still busy tonight?
Oh, always. But Terry, I definitely have time for you. So don't
Thank
even
you.
worry about it.
Much love, much love. So yes, let's get started. Again, our tech is going to tap in. Hopefully, and again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, as always, for Miss Greein-Hawkins, please put them in the chat. We will make sure that she gets all of your questions. We will make sure that if she does not have time to answer them, we will make sure that she has all of your questions and she will get back to you. We promise. And so, with that, our tech is here. We are ready to get started. So, again, welcome to Talk Time with Terri, where we find out and we talk about the who, the what, the where, and the why. And so, welcome. And I'm going to ask you one more time, what actually inspired you to run for a position such as a Court of Common Pleas at this time in our history?
Well, excuse me. Well, Barbara Jordan, I've been quoting Barbara Jordan all campaign long. And she said, what the people want is simple. They want an
Mhm.
America as good as its promise, right? And so, in challenging myself and my responsibilities to our society, what aren't we living up to? And when we see, birthright citizenship being something that was embodied in the Constitution being challenged, when we see collective bargaining rights being challenged, when we know that our law gives people the right to choose,
Mhm.
and how that's constantly being challenged, how even the right to vote is constantly being challenged with things like voter suppression, it becomes even more important that we have, well, it's always been very important, but
Mhm.
even more important, I think people realize that we have judges in our judicial system that we can count on to apply the people's laws to our lives as we intended. And
Yeah.
the judicial branch serves as a check on the power of the legislative branch and on the executive branch. And as a woman of color, every single right I have, I know is because people fought, people bled, people died
Mhm.
in order for me to even have the humanity recognized, in the 13th Amendment. So I certainly have an obligation to use my skills and my talents to work in our system to make sure that our laws are there for us, for our rights, our life, our liberty. It's that important.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that because as you stated, we have to make sure that our courts are working. We have to make sure that we are comfortable enough to know that our courts are working. And so thank you so much for that. Thank you. Um, my next question is, so in the courtroom, um, in the courtroom as a litigator or a counsel, have you had experience in that as a litigator or counsel in the courtroom?
Indeed, indeed. I know that with my job being considered in-house, right,
Mhm.
with the labor union, um, a lot of people tend to think of in-house counsel as the lawyers who kind of tell other lawyers what to do
Mhm.
outside in various states and jurisdictions. And that was part of my job for sure. But Terri, I am one of 2,000 union lawyers in the country. That's not a lot, right?
Really?
Yeah, I'm one of 2,000 and recognized by the AFL-CIO as a union lawyer. And so there's not a lot of us. There's a lot of work that has to be done. And so I don't get to pick and choose cavalierly based on what I
Mhm.
like and don't like, what I'm going to do. The 2,000 of us have to do all of it. And so I have been in court. Um, I have been in court at the federal level, at the state level. I have also been in mediation and arbitration, and also administrative agencies like the National Labor Relations Board or the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. Um, yeah, I don't get to pick and choose what I like and don't like. All of the work is important, and with
Yeah.
so few of us to do it, you have got to be ready, willing, and able to do it all for sure.
Wow. And that's stunning. It's only 2,000.
Only 2,000 of us recognized by the AFL-CIO. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that knowledge. Thank you so much. Um, now, do you have? Oh no, I'm gonna save that one. I'm gonna save that one for later. I'm gonna say that one for later. How would you approach, Amanda, if you don't mind? How would you approach the principle of fairness, uh, uh, particularly when considering the interests of the parties involved, such as the prosecution and defense in criminal cases?
So, are you asking? So you're asking more so about the
I should have asked the
defendant.
Yeah, I should have made it more specific, like the family division, um,
Okay.
the how to keep it partial, how to keep it
Mm,
even, how to keep it even with the defense and the the other side. How do you decipher that and keep it 100%
yeah.
unbiased? I should say.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I could tell that's where you were going. Yeah. And Terri, it's so important that we address bias in
Mhm.
our in all of our systems. And we can't honestly say that it's all bias free, because when you have people involved, it's going to involve some degree of bias because we come with it to whatever process, procedure, whatever place. And the first thing, the most important thing is to first acknowledge and confront your own biases that you
Mm,
bring. And what I do, well, let me go back for a second. I used to work as a mediator, and I often had to work with people who weren't represented by lawyers. So I had to, one, treat them with dignity and respect, recognize they
mhm,
listen to them, listen to what their case was about, what their issue was about, what their concerns were about, and to help the parties come to a resolution that they could both live with. And in doing that, I had to first and foremost confront any biases I may have about the parties involved, about who
mhm.
they were, what they were about, and defeat those in order to have everyone on the same plane. And confronting and addressing biases is something I do constantly.
Mm,
You have to be committed to doing it constantly, or else it will seep
wow.
into whatever it is you're doing. And this stuff is too important. We're
Yeah.
talking about making decisions that impact people for the rest of their lives. And not just the people involved, but the people surrounding them as well. And that's just way too important to just cavalierly say, well, I don't have any biases. We're just going to do this way. That's not serving the people properly, in my opinion. People deserve due process, not the process that we might think that they are due because of what they look like or
Yeah.
how we perceive them.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Because and I wanted to ask you two things. Because with the Court of Common Pleas, you first go to the. Can you educate us on? You first go to the family division, or do you go straight to criminal court? Can you educate us on that?
Well, the assignment is not up to the person to the new judge, right? So you get assigned to a division,
Okay.
and I know that typically new judges get assigned to the family division. Could you be a new judge and get assigned to criminal or civil? Certainly
Mm-hmm.
can. I know that there will be 4 or 5 vacancies in civil, for example. So there's a need. There's going to be a need there.
Mm.
And maybe there will be a reassignment of some people from other divisions, and all new judges go to family, or maybe there will be, a mix of things to make sure that the court is fully staffed in each division. But it is typical. Well, I won't say typical, but generally that's what most people expect: new judges to get assigned to family.
Okay. Thank you for that. And can you tap in and educate us on sticking with the family court? I learned I had Miss Cowan on and Judge Cowan on, and she was educating us on in the family court, the sensory room. And I was the first that I have heard of it. Can you educate us a little more? And what else do the family court offer that families may not know?
Well, the sensory room, and right, a lot of people don't know about this. And I was asked, what's a little known asset that the court has that people don't know about?
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about the work that the court does to help people in our community with autism. Um, People with autism or people on the spectrum are more likely to come into contact with the system. And so we need to be able to work with people where they are in
Yeah.
order to mete out that justice, right? And so that means a little education and understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe changing the way some things are done so that justice can be meted out. And yeah, the sensory room will be part of that. And there we need to do I think we need to do more
Mm-hmm.
to better inform people about this, so that they can take advantage of some of the resources that are provided. And some of that also includes some of these resources also include making sure that the judges are better informed as well, which is part of what's happening
Yeah.
actually in the courts. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of work has been done.
Yeah, yeah. I have been, this term here, I've learned way more. I think I dug a little deeper too as well, but I learned a lot more of what's going on in the family court, and I have to say I am extremely happy. I'm extremely yeah, I'm extremely happy of note. Do anyone want to have to go to the family court? No, but I am happy of the things that I'm hearing that is offered at the family division. So that I want to just say I'm really, really happy with that. And I'm glad that
Yeah.
I was able to ask you, to explain to our families more of what resources that is available for them when they, if unfortunately they would have to go to family court. So thank
Yeah. And if I could add, Terry, it's not just about family division either. It's also about any division, right? That you might find yourself in. Those resources are available to you so that you can have better access to justice, to improve your access to justice. And again, when it comes to the family court, that's where a lot of people appear pro se, meaning they represent themselves, right?
Mm,
And so it's going to be even more important that information and resources are available to people, whether they're on no matter where they are on the spectrum, but also in terms of our processes and procedures in the court, that
yeah.
they have the information that they need to represent themselves, and that we have judges who are confronting and addressing their own biases when dealing with people who are appearing in family court as well, so that those things aren't seeping into any of the decision making.
Yeah, yeah. And now, so thank you first and foremost. But you have so these resources is available for anyone that goes to court, or are these like a sensory room, for an example?
Yeah, anyone who needs it should be able to go, from what I understand. Now, I have not had the opportunity to partake in it, but
Mm,
my understanding is that these resources are there for whoever needs them.
okay.
And also, if I would imagine, because of the work that I have done with judges in
Mm,
their chambers and all that, if a judge should see a need or maybe
mm,
want to recommend that these resources be utilized or considered, that that could happen as well. So
okay.
it could be a recommendation from an expert or the judge, or a family request itself.
Okay, okay. And thank you so much for that. And ladies and gentlemen, again, we have candidate Amanda Greene-Hawkins running for Court of Common Pleas here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Allegheny County. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will make sure that she gets your questions. And if we do not have time for Ms. Greene-Hawkins to answer them, we will make sure that she gets your questions. So please, if we do not I don't ask something that you need to know, please put it in the chat. Okay, so um, we talked about ethics a little bit in the beginning. Can you share an example or a situation, if you can? Because I do know that there are some questions that, as a candidate, you may not be able to answer. So, can you share an example of a situation in which you had to make a difficult ethical decision, and how did you handle that?
Okay, I'm thinking, okay, which one?
Oh,
Because, I've been, I've got, nearly quarter century of legal experience. So I have come across some situations. And one is where I had, I was going into a hearing, preparing for a hearing,
mhm,
under the guise that a key witness had certain knowledge, personal knowledge, and could testify to certain things. So, leading up to the hearing, like 2 days before, when I'm talking to this witness, something I said something to them, and when they said their answer to me, it clicked. I was like, "You weren't there.
mm,
This
mm,
is not your personal knowledge." And I cannot put you have you be put under oath
mm,
and lie under oath. I
yeah.
cannot have that happen. And there was some pressure from someone else
Hmm.
to put this person on the witness stand and testify to something I knew that they had not witnessed. And they ultimately confessed to me, like, no, no, you're right.
Oh,
I didn't see
wow.
that. And I said, look, I cannot put this person on the
Wow.
stand. And were people upset that I didn't participate in this? Of course.
Hmm.
Um, was I upset that they would try to pull me into this? Of course. Um, but I'd rather have people upset with me over doing the right thing
Yeah.
than to risk, my reputation, my license to
Yeah.
practice, to participate in something like that.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, because it had to be, I'm not going to say hard, but if you're, it's ready to start, and so day of court and you find out something, so that had to be hard. So thank you. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that with us. Um, so now, as everyone know, during an election, especially a seat as high as a judicial seat, right? We see a lot of the candidates. We see a lot of the people. We talk to a lot of the people. We become friends with you all. And so, what role, if what role do you believe, or do you feel that once a candidate is elected to the judicial seat, what role do you think that they should still play in the community?
Well, the well, let's break it down, right? Because when we look at our government, we know it's the three branches, right? And the judicial branch is one of them, right? And so our government is in place for the people. It is by the people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to remain in touch with the people in order to serve the people.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, pulling some curtain close like, oh, I can't talk to you now. No, you have an obligation. I would have an obligation to make information, make knowledge of the judicial system available to
Mm-hmm.
people. Many things happen in court where people have no idea what's happening because why? They're at work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
They're not downtown going through security, going into the
Mm-hmm.
courtroom to see what's happening. What's this about? So making what's going on in the courtroom more accessible to people builds their trust in our system, which is very important. And it also means that you have a system that's in tune with what is happening to people where they live, work, and play and out in the community. Otherwise, you have people sitting on high, removed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
making decisions about people's lives when they have absolutely no clue about them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not what we need.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Better solutions require better collaboration on
you.
some level.
Mm-hmm. Um, Let me ask you this. So if elected, would so this is going to be a two-part. So if elected, what are your top two priorities as a judge of Court of Common Pleas? And will one of those be a priority to shift the racial divide inside the courtroom?
Oh, okay. So nice full question there. So my first priority is definitely to serve the people and treat them with dignity and respect. And what does that mean? Because everybody throws that out. What does that mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You recognize people's humanity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Recognize people's humanity and let them participate in the system to the extent that they are able, and so that they have their due process. They're fully heard.
Mm-hmm.
Another priority of mine would be addressing that bias
Mm-hmm.
in the system, right? Again, starting with myself
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and challenging myself everywhere. Bias is rearing its ugly head in any of my decision making. Pointing out, identifying areas where I'm seeing bias seep into our judicial system. And something that I talked about recently, and I had a couple of attorneys, I've never heard of that, and maybe they'd never heard of it because it didn't apply to them in the way that it would apply to me or you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is where, let's say we have a personal injury matter and damages are being calculated, and those damages go to the value of making me whole. And so those numbers, that dollar figure is calculated, and many people don't know this. The dollar figure is calculated based on race and gender statistics. And so what that means for people who look like me and you is that discriminatory differences in how we are compensated for wages or anything else gets solidified and then translates into a number that is used to make us whole in the judicial system. So if you're a woman making 77 cents on every dollar for a man, that's what your calculation's based on. And if you are a Black woman and making 66, 67 cents for every That's what your calculation's based on.
Mm.
And we need to have a better way instead of discriminatory practices that then made these stats possible.
So, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want us to get educated on what you're saying. What I think I'm hearing you saying. So there is a system that judges already go by, that like the mandatory minimum, like the judges, like they would say, my hands are tied, I have to go by this mandatory minimum. So there's a guideline that must be followed.
Well, let me try to do a better job of explaining this.
Okay.
So let's say where a case is going on before a judge, and there are the plaintiff defendant sides both bring to the table what they think a dollar amount is to make someone whole. And so it is the judge that can question the propriety of the number. Where does it come from? How is it calculated? And unless that type of inquiry is made, many times this will not even be brought up or raised. So I think it's more incumbent upon our judges, who we looking to for fairness, to ask those questions when it comes to these things, to bring out this discussion. And somewhere where I think the public may be more readily exposed to this is when there was a man who was charged with administering the 9/11 fund, and he wrote a book about it and talked about his struggles with putting values on compensation for people's lives when there was so much of this, race and gender-based data in the calculation.
Yeah.
Which he knows is based on discrimination.
Yeah. So every time we do a talk time with Terri, and we get educated, I always get so excited. I want to because I hope our audience, I hope our ladies, and I hope our audience heard that if the judge don't ask, how did you come to this number? Please have your attorney. Can a client have their attorney, like, Your Honor, how did they come to this conclusion of this amount?
Yeah.
Because what I'm hearing is that question is not being asked.
Well, the attorney could then ask the other side as well. Yeah. How are you coming up with this number, especially when they're in settlement discussions? And I think that this can also empower people to ask their own attorney.
Yeah.
How'd you get to that number? What information or data did you use? And I'm not saying there is a perfect solution, but the solution starts with identifying the problem.
Wow.
Then we can move forward.
Yeah. And there's so much I wanted to tap in on that because, thank you for educating us on that. And I also want to make sure that I thank you because you have acknowledged on several questions that I had that you first have to start with your own biases. And I respect, and I really want to make sure that I let you know that, and thank you for that. Okay, my next question. We got a couple more minutes. So first I'm going to ask, why you?
Well, Terri, I have vast experience in the legal profession. Like I said, quarter century of legal experience where I have been I've worked with judges in chambers behind the scenes, helped them make decisions and draft their opinions for decisions. There's nothing like that behind the scenes education that you get. Also, I've done so many types of proceedings as a lawyer, with federal and state court, the administrative agencies, mediation, the arbitration. And all of this has really required me to be able to multitask, to be able to research and quickly understand and get a grasp on different areas of the law. Also, many of the situations that I deal with are done, right? And I'm just dealing with something in time, a moment in time. And then I'm also sometimes dealing with situations that are dynamic and changing as I'm trying to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, like we were talking about, a judge can get assigned anywhere in our Court of Common Pleas. And they may not be there for their entire judicial career. They could be in different divisions. And so the history that I have, the training that I have to understand different areas of the law, to be able to turn on a dime,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to apply the law to situations, it's a skill set. It's a skill set that we need in our judges in the Court of Common Pleas.
Yeah.
And that is definitely something that I bring to the table through 25 years of experience. I'll be ready on day one for any division in the courthouse.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And I want to apologize to you for something, because I always ask everyone, and I did not ask you, can you describe your professional background and how it has prepared you for this judicial role?
I may have I tried to do that in our discussions, but more
You did.
specifically, yeah,
I just
I've
wanted to
been
make sure that you didn't miss nothing, but you did. You went through the union. You went through the yeah. You went through a hefty resume, but I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't ask you, and I wanted to make sure just in case you left something out. So that's the
yeah.
okay.
Well, let me also mention, I was an elected official. I served on county council, and I have a history of public service. So not just the law do I have in practicing in various settings, but I also have the public service, where I have served the people as an elected member of county council. I was appointed to the Pittsburgh Community Task Force on Police Reform. I was also an Obama appointee to the Democratic National Committee, and I served on the board of what was the Port Authority, but now Pittsburgh Regional Transit. So I have extensive history in law and in public service, and they both certainly come together in the judicial branch of our government in the Court of Common Pleas.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for that. And I'm sorry I forgot to ask you that. Now,
It's okay.
before we wrap up this evening, I want to make sure. Now our tech did say that they did not see any questions from the audience, but again, I want to make sure that our audience knows that we have our candidate, Amanda Greein-Hawkins, running for Court of Common Pleas here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Allegheny County. And so before we wrap up for this evening, so if someone wanted to ask you a question that we did not talk about, or they may want to even volunteer, they may want to knock doors, they may want to just meet you. How can someone get in touch with you?
Well, thank you, and you're welcome. Please reach out to us. Our contact information is available at voteamandagreenhawkins.com. Our email is amanda@voteamandagreenhawkins.com, and the phone number is 412-254-4188.
All right. And so, and last but not least, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, definitely. I think in these years where people call them off-year elections, that we need to, this is when we really need to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
And if the recent history hasn't taught us anything, but that we need to make sure that our judicial branch of government is one that is a strong one that we can rely on, and that will be that strong third leg of that three-legged stool, or else the whole thing crumbles. We really need to pay attention in these elections, and to vote here in Pennsylvania, vote for judges who we know will apply the law, and stand up for what is right. We expect our judges to stand up for justice and fairness. And that has been my career, standing up for justice and fairness and doing what's right.
Yeah.
And I'm just humbly ask for everyone's vote this coming election.
And what day is the election?
Well, May 20th is the last day to vote. But you can vote early by requesting a mail-in ballot, which will be mailed to your house. You fill it out and send it back in so that it gets downtown by May 20th.
Okay. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And we cannot thank you enough for blessing us with your presence here at Talk Time with Terri. Again, candidate for judicial judge, Judicial Court of Common Pleas. I'm sorry, Amanda Grein-Hawkins. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to say good night, and we will see